here at the Ottawa Book Expo with Malik and his daughter Kyla. Malik is the author of the book Hope the System, and Kyla is his daughter and also the editor of the book. And so, hi, welcome.
Hi,
so glad to have you here. Can you tell me a little bit about your book?
Yeah, so my book comes from actually over a decade of experience working in different companies, working with the general public as well, and trying to change and tackle challenges, everyday challenges in life that are so difficult to manage every single day. You know, challenges like, hey, I've got way too much to do. I'm going to drop some balls. You know, the kids are driving me crazy. My colleagues at work are driving me crazy. And how do we transform those challenges into opportunities, into something that can help us grow, that can help us build our skill set and help us become more resilient in life? I think that's sort of the main emphasis of the book.
And this is your first book,
Yes.
so congratulations.
Thank you.
What motivated you to write this book?
Well, I've been working as a management consultant for several different companies, and in business they come up with so many different challenges all the time. And as a management consultant, you have to solve these problems with these complex groups. And I said, well, you know what? A lot of these techniques in this 4-step system can actually be used to help everybody and anybody. So I started practicing it on myself. My daughter started practicing it, and all of a sudden we started realizing after a few years, you know, this actually works, you know, in everyday life. It's very simple to implement. It could take up to, you know, as low as 4 minutes to implement, and can really help you kind of regulate those emotions and those panic attacks, so that you can better manage them through everyday life and turn them around, and it's something that's positive and constructive in your life.
Wow, that's great. And Kyla,
Yeah.
you are a student and
Yes.
you're working with your dad.
Yes.
And so why do you think it's important for youth to be involved in the world of books?
Well, I'm not for this system specifically. Like, I struggle, especially in university, with like extreme high anxiety, and I find that like just through editing, or reading technically the book, I've been able to kind of manage that stress just so much better. Because I'm just like, as I'm editing, I'm going through these like 4 steps. Sorry, I'm not a great speaker.
Okay.
No, you're
We're gonna
doing awesome.
edit this tape, so if you want to stop,
Okay, perfect.
And if you don't like the question, ask another
No,
one.
you're
No,
doing
no,
great.
it's actually
It's
a
going.
great
Yeah.
question.
It's very natural.
Yeah.
It's very natural.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Awesome.
It's doing great.
But for university students specifically, or students in general, I find that like, you know, taking 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 20 minutes out of your day, and you know, just sitting with your stress, acknowledging your stress, and then just like trying to overcome it within like a short amount of time is super important. And a lot of students don't have that technique, or you know, are looking for a bunch of resources when they have it like within themselves.
Yeah.
So
That's
definitely.
amazing. So these are things that you've learned from this book, that you've learned from your
Yeah,
dad,
definitely.
and that you think, you know, students and their parents, and I mean, this sounds like it's a book that has a pretty wide audience.
That's right.
Who is your audience?
It's everybody and anybody. We're, you know, anything from a university level and above,
Yeah.
even high school to some level, but more of the senior years.
Right.
I think that's where I think, you know, the main emphasis. But young adults, like my daughter's been using it.
Yeah.
She's been actually she's very humble. She's actually had a pivotal part in the book so she made the book more translatable, right? So I had all of these complicated diagrams and figures, and she said, this is way too much, you know, no one's going to understand this. So she fixed it up, she fixed up the diagram, she fixed up some of the content.
Yeah.
And I think going back to your question about youth and the power of youth, right, it's important that we encourage, right, the youth to step up and empower them to actually contribute, right, in effective ways. You know, she's an incredible editor, and she's a great content editor, more than just, you know, just editing the verbiage. And I think that's important. I think that more of us have to encourage those youth, to give them the opportunities they can to actually, you know, make this happen. Because, you know, hiring, you know, just established professionals is great, but hiring youth and giving them an opportunity to excel and empower them to go forward, I think, is even more important.
Absolutely, and I think it just speaks to the importance of diversity too, right? Like we're talking about diverse generations, diversity of voices, diversity of language too, because I mean, you grew up with texting, which we did not, and so that's going to change the way that you write, the way that you read. You're an amazing duo. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. You're very inspiring. Those who are interested in buying this book, where can they go?
Amazon.
Amazon, perfect.
Amazon Hope and from under Malik Hakim.
Okay, and here at the Ottawa Book Expo?
Yeah.
Are you here all weekend?
All weekend,
All
yeah.
weekend.
We'll be right here and come on by and let's have a chat. And it'll be exciting to talk to you guys about hope.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Hello, we're here with Dr. Malik Hakim to talk a bit about his book Hope, the System. So I had a little look at your book and I'm very curious. I myself am a believer and a person who practices cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, CBT.
And so I wondered how your book is different or relates to cognitive behavioral therapy practices.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, it's actually based on partially on CBT. It's based also on the cognitive triad, where we have we naturally go through this. We go through negative thoughts every single day when we go through something depressing, like we're overly stressed. We have a lot of different challenges that we face in life. And of course, you know better than I do, being a prof, that once we have that negative thought, it can lead to a negative emotion, and a negative emotion leads to a negative reaction. And so what Hope is based on, it's a 4-step system that actually helps reverse that cycle.
Okay.
So the first inclination that most human beings have is when they, is that good? Like this? All right.
Yeah, keep the mic a little bit closer. No, you're doing
Shall
fine.
we start again?
It's up to you.
Okay.
I will edit it out, so don't worry, okay?
Okay, we'll start again. Because I can see that they couldn't hear us very well.
No, we can edit it.
Hello.
Yeah, we'll start again.
Okay.
So I was just saying, bonjour, hello, quick. We're here with Dr. Malik today to talk about his book, Hope, the System. And one of the things that came to my mind upon just picking up the book is I wondered, as a practitioner of CBT myself, of cognitive behavioral therapy, how you think the book relates or maybe is different from cognitive behavioral therapy therapies that are put into practice in our daily life.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. Actually, the book is based in part on cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the basic premise of it is to try to take all of our negative thoughts that we have when we go through different situations in our lives and transform them into opportunities, so we can empower ourselves to grow and to become a better version of ourselves. Because all of those negative experiences in our lives are opportunities for us to continue to grow, to become better human beings. And the way that it works is it's based off of the cognitive triad, which when you have a negative thought, it tends to usually, if you let it go uncontrolled or have a second thought or a third thought, it goes into emotions. And these emotions start to either hurt ourselves, we start to hurt ourselves with these emotions, or we lash out. We lash out at the people we love, we lash out at the people that are closest to us. Sometimes we're in a bad mood. And so to reverse that cycle, Hope has a 4-step system. It's been proven over 10 years. My daughter actually uses it, and I've got different people using it on a regular basis. It's a 4-step system where the first step is you hold your thoughts. Now, it's not intuitive because when we go through difficult moments, our brain wants to help us. It wants to problem solve for us, and you know this better than most, where it tries to outthink the problem. Okay. Unfortunately, our brain at that point is not really at the best sort of stable state, because it's already feeling all these negative emotions, these negative feelings. So it's not settled. It's not settled. So instead of helping us, it can lash out and bring out more negative thoughts, and that leads to more negative emotions, and the cycle just continues to perpetrate itself until we start feeling really bad, really anxious, right? So the way to reverse that is to actually hold your thoughts, right? Don't let yourself think, and then get to a point where you get your brain to start observing the emotion. So observe the experience. Think of yourself almost like you're outside of your body, outside of yourself. You're watching yourself go through this experience. When you do that, those emotions begin to surface. Now, the top emotion, which is usually like, stress or anxiety, or I'm not going to do this or something like that, or they're going to fire me at work, or my kids are crazy, and I can't handle them, I'm a bad parent, or whatever it may be. Those are the top level ones, but as you go deeper and you observe deeper, right, and you let those ones surface, there's usually some underlying reasons why you're feeling this. Maybe you're overwhelmed, maybe there's something else happening in your life that's really just triggering you, right, to have these. And you really want to process that, because those are very valuable information. And so once you actually observe and you let those emotions surface, and they'll tell you this in psychology quite a bit, is that once you experience those emotions, you tend to start the healing process, because you start to let yourself really connect with you. And connection with yourself and in a safe space is really where you begin that process, of healing, right? And then finally, the third phase is when you start processing all that information. Now this is valuable because you've got top level down information about what you're feeling, okay, and why you're feeling it. What you're feeling and why you're feeling it. And once you get to that level where you start processing that information, you can close the loop of hope with the last step called empower, and that's where you build off actions. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know what, I've had a lady, she came in, she goes, I'm feeling very worthless today, and I've always been feeling worthless. I've been dealing with, situations of worthlessness. And so we just practiced hope right there, and she started to talk about what it is that she was feeling and why she was feeling worthlessness. And as she got to the process phase, she realized that she's feeling worthless because her parents wanted her to get degrees, and she couldn't get the degrees. So she felt worthless because of that. It wasn't because she was feeling worthless, it was because she was triggering off of an experience that her parents taught her, hey, you should get a doctorate, you should get a degree. And guess what triggered her experience was seeing my name and seeing that there was a PhD beside my name, right? And that triggered that experience for her of worthlessness. And those things happen regularly, all the time. So as we went through the whole process, we developed an empowering action where she believed that only people with degrees and all that are worth listening to. And I said, listen, I work with so many individuals that have no PhDs, and she mentioned, oh, would you listen to someone underneath a bridge? And I told her, yes, I would. Because that person who's living underneath a bridge, or a truck driver, or whatever that individual does with no education, it has as much to say as anyone with a PhD. And I told her, and I can tell you that authoritatively because I have a PhD, right? I can say that to you. And that was powerful for her because she's able to now say, you know what, if he's telling me that I can be worthy without a degree, then maybe I am worthy, right? And that's how, and that empowering action that I helped propel her through for that final phase, hopefully that'll stick, and she'll go home with that, and she'll be able to, reverse that cycle, and that's really important. So I think we need this, and a lot of when I went through university, I met a lot of friends that didn't have a way of dealing with some of these negative thoughts, and CBT was working, in changing the way they think was working, but it wasn't closing the loop with the action, the empowering action. And unfortunately, when you don't close the loop with the action, I had someone tell me, well, you know what, I just write it off. I just go and I just bicycle it off. I go, that's great, but guess what? It's going to trigger again, and you're going to feel bad again. So how many times are you going to keep writing it off, right? You've got to complete the loop. So when you complete the hope loop with the action, the empowering action, your mind actually starts accepting it. And you know this better in psychology, right? That we learn from experience, right?
I myself, I have to say, I'm not a psychologist. I've just worked in both war zones and also in medical contexts. I worked at Akwesasne with cancer survivorship. I've also worked with recently with an individual who was in a coma for 43 days and lost 10 years of memory. So I use some of CBT, but my practices are more based. I hear you, what you're describing as involving mindfulness as well. in terms of that retention of thought, but also I am very interested in the ideas of uncoupling and recoupling actions and thoughts, and I'm more close to a Zen Buddhist or a yogi. So in my daily practices, I try to uncouple and use CBT, but even in micro movements of the body. So it becomes about the physical body and about action. So a thought is not enough, but a thought is always connected with an action in the body. For example, if I have a feeling like of trauma in my body, maybe my shoulders are bending forward, so maybe the action that is opposite to it, or an action to complete that, is an action of going like this, of, you know, moving. So in the micro movements, I work with that. So CBT is more than just a thought pattern, it's a body pattern. So I think when we link it to the body, I think that's maybe what you're saying a bit, is that it has to be a holistic and action-based approach. I was wondering, what, could you tell us very clearly, HOPE, what that acronym stands for, just the words themselves? So the
H is the first part. So you hold your thoughts.
Hold, okay, and the O?
Observe.
Observe
your experience.
The P?
The P is process.
Process.
All of the experience. And then empower yourself with experience.
Okay, I see. I like the empowerment bit a lot. I think that people are experts in their own lives. I think that's what you're saying. And that I think it's up to us as maybe as teachers in some ways, because we're, or as gurus or whatever you want to call it, as people with that. But in a kind of I mean, you're an educator, right? You present this book, you have a pedagogical function, at least in my mind. So I think maybe it's your responsibility to teach it to others. So how does this, is this something when these people buy this book, are they reading it and coming to terms with it on their own, or do you walk them through this process, or how does that work? So maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Excellent question. So the book is actually meant to be read like a story. So I actually go through examples where I've actually gone through it, and people that have gone through different life situations using hope. They actually, you can read about their experiences and how they actually use hope to help their life. Because just like anything, when we don't experience it ourselves or we see other people experience it, that's why the movies are so powerful. We see people experiencing things and we experience it with them, then we can integrate it better. Now it's going to be followed up with workshops. We're actually having a certified course, so you can actually add it to your resume with it. There's also going to be free workshops and tools that are online to implement it, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to find your path through each of those steps and your tools. So there's hundreds of tools for each of those steps, so that you can apply it in your way in your life, right? And that's really the key.
Very interesting. I also have I'm very curious. So I see that you hold a PhD in engineering. Is this the case, or what's
It's in biomedical engineering.
Okay. I was going to ask.
The PEng is professional engineering.
Very interesting.
But you wouldn't want to trust me there, Rich.
So how did you come from that area to this more? Is it kind of a typical kind of? It seems to me like a kind of how do I say this? An uncommon route.
Yeah.
So I just want you to talk a bit about your education and what led you to this book.
Yeah, so I originally studied in biochemistry and chemical engineering. So I did 2 degrees for my bachelor's, and then in my master's I did polymer reaction engineering. And I was throughout those 3 processes, I was taught what to do. I was told by the professors, this is how you need to study. You want to get your A+, do this. And then for the PhD, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. So I went to the University of Ottawa, I went to the vice dean, and I said, listen, I want to do a project that's unlike anything at the University of Ottawa. I want to combine 3 different fields, biomaterials, chemical engineering, and cell and molecular biology. And I want to have 3 professors, which at that time was unheard of. And basically I want to do my PhD with all 3 different professors. I ended up catching a 4th one, Dr. David Carlson from NRC. And we basically used a multidisciplinary approach, using about 90 different disciplines to develop the product that I did for the PhD, which in this case was an artificial cornea. But it was the system that mattered to me the most. The system that used the multidisciplinary approach rather than the actual product itself. So then I went into the private business and I started to apply that to conflict resolution. I work with big complex teams that have really big problems and try to go through and apply hope, and as well as other different systems that I have developed for that. And so this is the first of many.
Very interesting.
And
So,
there's a bunch
so
of
it's a
them.
series of books that.
Correct.
So
One is
the first-
coming out in Christmas.
Okay.
So that one is actually available now, but it's coming out for Christmas, and that one deals with conflict resolution. There's going to be examples about how do we deal with world peace, how do we handle, how do we negotiate in a win-win scenario with each other, how do we learn to build in our diversity into the way that we think about solutions, rather than work against our diversity, try to become all the same, right? So there's a lot of different techniques.
Very timely, very interesting. I think I'm very curious about your book. I like also the design of the book. It's very slick and it kind of communicates very clearly, even through the graphic design. So I had a wee peek, and it reads like poetry at the beginning.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know if you felt that way. Yeah, I picked it up and I opened certain pages. Hope rescued me. Hope revived me. Hope remade me. You know, it's beautiful. Well, congratulations on your book. If you have any other comments about the book, where is it available? What if people want to pick it up today?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon, and you can also pick it up. You can pick it up in any of the bookstores online, and they'll be actually in bookstores very soon. But I think what's really important for me, I guess, is not so much about the book. You know, when I came here today, this is one of my first conferences, coming out in public and with a book like this, and I got to meet all these incredible authors.
Yes.
And I was amazed. I was amazed at all these wonderful authors in this room that are really, trying to communicate something important to the world. And I know that it's very difficult to be an author because you're putting yourself out there. You're not just hiding away with your thoughts. You're putting your thoughts out there. You're putting it out to judgment, right? And I really respect that. I think it's wonderful, and I just love the diversity of different thinking, that's out there today. And I really feel that, but to me, that was my biggest takeaway, as well as the connections that I had with people in the booth and speaking with them. I think there was, it was really wonderful. So from my first experience,
Great.
very happy.
Yes, I think writing and art creation in general, all creativity can be very isolating, especially what we just lived with COVID. So in some ways, an event like this is a very valuable opportunity, as you point out, even to just, to see ourselves and one another, to be together.